Welcome to Modern Physics for extra credit lecture. We're going to be talking about the TechTalks event that happened here recently, and it was a really great event that was kind of part of this overall Atlanta Science Festival that we have every year. You had Georgia Tech students, undergrads and graduate students, who were basically giving a competitive speaking science lecture. This happened back in late March, hosted by one of student organizations on campus over in the College of Business. And its main purpose was really to give students the opportunity to communicate the value of science in a public setting. So I'm going to focus on two of the five presenters or competitors. First will be Nick Selby with his Biomania, where his subject was all about showing how science, or I guess the development of science, has really been inspired by nature. And then I'm also going to focus on Mahdi Al-Husseini's Cold Beers and Engineers talk, which was very entertaining. He really emphasized how engineering is really about making life easier and better. So let's dive into Nick's first. So some of the key takeaway points I learned from him were that many of our current buildings are being modeled off of nature. Also, he really emphasized that simple geometry can greatly reduce energy costs. So one of the examples he gave were the common honeycomb, which you see in the bottom left picture, and how that has actually been used in different buildings to emphasize or to maximize getting solar energy, so for things like solar panels, maximizing sunlight during daytime hours, and even helping with the overall structural efficiency of the buildings. He also kind of gave a couple more examples about how complex engineering can oftentimes have very simple designs. One of the things I did afterwards were actually go and research lots of different buildings and lots of different, I guess, kind of nature inspired designs. So one of the ones I really like was this. This is just kind of a regular iHome for your different MP3 players. And I loved how it was just in the shape of a log. It actually kind of really reminded me of that nature inspired design type of idea. One of the things that I'm going to do after this lecture is really think of different cost reduction things that I can do in my internship for this summer, and really see how we can do cost reduction not just in terms of our process, but in terms of sustainability and in terms of reducing our waste. So maybe we can print less paper, or maybe we can go and get rid of, or maybe not get rid of, but maybe we can do a little more recycling and use that to have a cost reduction. The second lecture I'm going to focus on was titled Cold Beers and Engineers, and this was a lecture all about showing how engineering makes life easier. Some of the key points I took away were that engineering is about feasibility, easeability, and accessibility. So a great way to illustrate this would actually be with the common Q-tip. This is something that no one would ever think about. It's a very small invention that has made a huge difference in people's lives, because this is something that had literally billions of people around the world use. It's very easy to use, very simple to use, very feasible to produce and manufacture, but it gives people accessibility to something that would otherwise be very difficult, cleaning our ears. And this has actually inspired me to go and research about the Georgia Tech Inventor Prize, which is another kind of like a Georgia Tech, almost like a case competition, where you actually compete for funding with some type of invention that you make in a group, and which you would then go and use to do some type of project or solve some type of problem. So because of this lecture, I'm really going to look more into that and see what type of little invention I could make that could possibly make a really big difference for science, or maybe not for science, but for different communities around the world. Some major takeaways I had from this event were: one, science is cool. And not just the very technical nitty-gritty research type of science, but just the science of nature. with science that you see in everyday buildings, with science that are in water bottles now. It's just very, very interesting. Also, I learned that effective communication is going to be essential for not just science now, but science going forward and for the development of science. A lot of people are still scared of a lot of recent science advances, partially because we have not done a good job of communicating how we got to those advances, and what these advances mean for society as a whole. Also, science is about nature and not just the numbers. When you look at a plant, when you look at food, when you look at animals, when you look at the ecosystem, when you walk out of your dorm, you are surrounded by science. And a lot of times we get locked and think that science is just in the classroom or science is just in the laboratory. Also, I learned that it's a really good idea to bring science to the masses as opposed to having the masses come to science. And that's my lecture.